When launching a product, how well are you determining what keywords actually fit with your product and related to your product and your content? Well, that is what we're going to be talking about today. My great friend, Andrew Morgan, founder of an amazing marketing agency. Marketing, you guys do full service, but called Marknology. And they go deep into creatives, but also deep into ads. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you. I thought this would be a fun one just because, not every service provider out there is full service. Like Junglr focuses specifically, goes deep in PPC. Something that Marknology does that's a little bit different is, we're the content, we're the SEO and PPC. And so that creates a different level of insights in what we're focusing on also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm really, really excited to dig into this topic. So do you want to just give us an overview? Like, what do you even mean when you talk about picking or choosing keywords based on content?
Yeah. So I think it's like, we're not always in complete control of everything with a brand, right? We're not always getting to do the content. We're not always getting to choose exactly what's in the content or the SEO even. A lot of times a brand is saying, hey, we want it to sound more salesy than keyword rich or things like that. But I'm still very much in the weeds of PPC. Like we're a 5-man team at Marknology and I take some of the brands. I like to launch a brand that we don't know exactly how it's selling or like what's going on. And oftentimes we as a brand, whoever's an Amazon seller, we think about the features, benefits of a product in the content side. We're like, not only is this like have an extra long hose or this has a super strong motor, but like, why does that matter to the customer? Okay, so that you can, be more flexible or you can like pump air faster in the cold or whatever those features are. We come up with this list, we make content, we do SEO. We're trying to think of the keywords that are, helium 10s and our merchant words like Jungle Scouts, like tell us what keywords are relevant. And then we maybe enroll an item in Vine reviews and we start PPC. And if we're good at PPC, we're creating some exact match, sponsored product campaigns to go after keyword ranking, probably doing some product targeting, maybe a little automatic, some broader keywords to see what's relevant, maybe some sponsored display retargeting, maybe some sponsored brand top of page. We're doing a little bit of everything, when you do a launch and depending on how hard you want to go at it. But it's really like in the weeks that follow that I think I want to talk about, which can be like super insightful. And oftentimes what I find is the keywords that we think are really relevant to the product are not exactly the ones converting in PPC. Have you ever had that happen?
All the time.
Right. And, you can go back and say, hey guys, we got to redo the content. You can, keep trying to figure out why, we're selling a seltzer water in a can and why isn't seltzer water converting? Like, why isn't the keyword that's relevant to the content working? Maybe the product targeting is working when we're showing up against other similar products, but like the keywords that we want to go after, that we've created the content for, that we think are relevant to the product are not working. And instead I'm selling a seltzer water or a water with electrolytes in it, but I'm getting conversions on tasty non-alcoholic drinks or non-alcoholic mixers or mocktail drinks. And that's not what I'm selling. I'm selling a seltzer water. Like, why is this happening? And I think on the PPC side, it can be super confusing. It can be like, like I'm pushing on our keyword. If you have a client saying, hey, these are the keywords I want to go after, and you're pushing on them, well, your ROI, your ROAS, your click-through rates are horrible, right? And it really comes down to almost figuring out what's working consistently in the PPC, and we're also figuring out what's missing in the content. And I think that like with Rufus and more sellers getting savvy on like, hey, I want to include that main keyword, one main keyword per image that I have on my PDP stack, whether it's seltzer water or electrolytes with water, and we invest into that and we have that in there, it becomes even harder to backpedal from there. It becomes even harder. What are some of the things, I guess I want to throw it back to you a little bit. Like, what are some of the things you guys would do if there's something like that happening with the product launch? Do you go and tell them that you need different content? Do you just start trying different strategies? What's kind of your approach?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a mixture of both. And I'm really interested to see how you sort of navigate this, because I think that's a very common thing, right? Like we'll do intense keyword research in the beginning, again, understanding the product very well. We always get that feedback from the client of, what is it about this product that's different? How does it fit in the market? Where does it niche down? And then do our best to make sure that we're serving up the product through advertising on those relevant search pages. But then from there, it's getting the data feedback and saying like, okay, so this is where it does convert. This is where it doesn't convert. And if it's struggling due to conversion rates, well, then obviously that's a conversation that we need to have, and the conversation we do have. But so what you're kind of saying is advertising both ways, it sounds like, is sort of acting like a feedback loop for content. So instead of viewing these two things in isolation, you're saying one feeds into the other and they should both inform each other.
100%. Like, it's like you start with your best foot forward, you do your research, you try that thing, but you start getting the feedback loop. And the worst is when your main keywords that should be selling the product are not driving sales. They might be driving clicks, but no conversions. And you're only getting conversions on terms that aren't exactly what you're selling, more like auxiliary. Maybe your auto campaign is grabbing and showing you against some like mocktail drinks or something like that instead of seltzer water. But when you're going head to head, it's telling me that when I'm going head to head with other seltzer waters, or that the term seltzer water is not resonating with the customers, it's either telling me that my messaging is off, or it's telling me that what we think is resonating, like what we're going after, and then what's actually happening is not the case. And I think that can be one of the hardest challenges, but it's definitely a lot easier when you're able to control the SEO and control the content, if you're in control of both of them, because you can then try different things.
I would love to dig into it. So walk me through a scenario, because it sounds like correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like there's two different scenarios. Like there's the one scenario in which you're like, okay, I'm not converting for my main keywords, like my product, I can't seem to get it moving, and yet I'm converting elsewhere. And so in that case, you're saying, okay, maybe we need to go back and reevaluate the content to see, are we going after those things? But it almost sounds like there's
pause there, because like say that the keywords aren't working, but like product targeting is working. Meaning like when we show up against other seltzer drinks or up against other drinks, like we're converting, we're not getting sales from people coming in from a keyword, which obviously is a problem if you're trying to get organic ranking and you're trying to, you need to figure out what search is driving your sales, because the ones that you do have are not working, but like there are some sales happening in an auxiliary way, so to speak.
Got it.
Scenario one.
And then it sounds like scenario number two. And then I want to dig into both these scenarios. Like, what do we actually do in either case? But it sounds like almost the second scenario is, okay, so it's still same thing. We're not making sales off of our, kind of defined ICP, but it also sounds like we are making sales from keywords. They're just not the keywords we thought we were going to make sales from. Would you say that those two distinct scenarios?
Yeah, because in scenario two, it could be that, okay, these should be the like auxiliary keywords that we're getting some sales from, but it's not enough to build a product off of. Like, right? It'd be like if our main keywords were working and then some of these auxiliary keywords were working, it would be like, okay, that's where our broad is. That's where we're like minimum bidding on stuff, some sales there. But it's not one that a mocktail is not a seltzer water and I'm trying to sell a seltzer water. It means I still have a problem. Just because I'm getting some auxiliary sales from those other keywords, we're either going to completely rebrand the product to be a mocktail, which we're not, or something's not working. I just thought of a random like example would be like, okay, so we have like a bar here in Kansas City, like on the main street that has, you go in there, you get a cup, you have a card that you swipe and you can get your own beer. And there's like 50 beers on tap and you can kind of just choose whatever beer you want. Okay, like let's say we have a pale ale. Okay, like that pale ale out of the 50 is like going to stand like a minimum chance of being the one selected when you walk in there. Why? Because it's pale ale compared to everything else. There's so many options in there. There's so many other options for beer. If we are at a baseball game and the only guy going by the stands has either like a vodka lemonade or a pale ale beer, everybody that wants beer is going to grab that pale ale because that's the one that's available and they want beer. And now that one stands out. And I'm using that as an example to say like, so when we're going seltzer water to seltzer water against what's out there, there's nothing going on with our product that's making us like them want to choose our seltzer water over the other seltzer waters. If they're seeing our seltzer water next to some mocktails, next to some like healthy drinks or non-alcoholics, they're like, I might take a shot at this, because it's like we're in a different ballpark, we're in a different arena, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So to get that conversion. So instead of them going against price or against taste or against reviews, they're deciding to choose us for something else. When we're going head to head, we're not winning. And that tells me something.
I like that. I like how you paint the picture. So let's assume we're facing this scenario with a new product launch. We launched it. Let's go with the salsa water and the mocktail. So like, okay, we've identified there's a problem, and it's definitely a huge problem because we're not making the sales that we need to on the product launch is the real main concern. So how do you go about sort of analyzing or making decisions off of that feedback loop?
Yeah, I think to me, what that says is like, let's say that for this argument, price and reviews are in line with everybody else.
Right.
Or like we've got volume reviews. We don't feel like that's a problem and our price point is like in alignment. Well, I think what it says is like we're having a communication issue. What we think the customer cares about is not what we're actually communicating through the images. And we're talking about locale, and we're talking about that it comes from, Colorado Springs, fresh springs. And these are things that we're wanting to say about it, but these are not things that make the customer decide to choose us over someone else. We're not doing a good enough job at that. And there's not like necessarily like a cookie cutter answer to that, but it's basically like process of elimination of like, look, it's not our PPC that's the problem. It's something else in regards to the conversion. It's like, look, you're beautiful enough to get people to come talk to you, but no one wants to hold a conversation with you. And everybody's like, okay, I'm going to go to the next booth. If you're at a trade show, it's like, okay, you're coming by, have a little combo, but no one's ordering from you. Everyone's moving on. And that's really what I'm talking about. Getting clicks on our keywords. We're getting clicks and engagement, but we're not getting any conversion. Right. So it's just like a ton of spend on seltzer water, but like no conversions.
Got it. I know the process is super messy, sort of that feedback loop. It sounds like there's also kind of two separate tracks. There's the content in terms of like the images, and then there's the content in terms of the SEO. And
yeah, there is a third scenario here that's like, let's say we choose like 10 keywords for a product because there's like 10 ways to describe a product, and we've got it throughout the title and the bullet points, and we start advertising on exact match. And this is more so probably the case where like 5 of the 10 are working and the other 5 are not. And then it becomes like, okay, what are some auxiliary ones we can fill in here that are working and add that to the copy or the content? And it's just like optimizing what's working or what's not there, right? That's almost like a middle ground or like an average. And that should be happening anyway when you do a launch, is like evaluating the main keywords you're going with and seeing how they're resonating and are the ones that are converting after 90, 120 days. Do you have that in your content? Like, is that like, are those keywords strongly on your packaging or in your content? That's kind of like a scenario 3 too. But with number 1, which one was scenario 1?
I don't know. So let me ask you that. So it sounds like the SEO is probably the one that's like nothing's ever cut and dry, but if it seems like it's a little bit more cut and dry because you're like, these are the keywords we're after. Are they in the listing? These are the ones that are working in PPC. Rinse and repeat, feedback loop, improve. And those, because it's keywords, right?
PPC, because PPC can offset SEO. Like you can spend a ton in PPC. You're not going to rank as well organically by not having the keywords in the SEO, but the PPC can offset horrible SEO. Like it really, it's just a waste of money and it's not efficient and you're not going to rank well. But the SEO is important, but not, to me, not as important as high quality images that are converting and really well executed PPC.
So what you say, and honestly, I'm a notorious image shopper for myself when I go and search on Amazon. Like if it's not in the images, don't make me read it in the bullet points. I'm not going to know it. Like even as much as I understand bullet points and everything because I work in this world. So are you saying like that's really where this feedback loop can be the most informative and important, is when you think, like you said, you think you've conveyed the value propositions, but yet when you look at the conversion rates of the product and you look specifically at the conversion rates of when you show up on what should be your main keywords, and like you said, you're getting those clicks, but you're not getting those sales. So obviously you're not speaking to that consumer. So therefore you need to go optimize. And from my understanding, the creatives are the one, again, when I say creatives, I'm thinking mostly image stack is what A+ as well, but mostly image stack, it sounds like, is where sort of that work in making the shopper fully understand the product and the benefits and everything that they're on.
Images have to have value, and they need to, the customer needs to do no thinking, make no assumptions. Every image is telling them, whatever they typed into the search bar is being reconveyed to them in the images. And I think sometimes, like a product I was doing is a portable air compressor. A portable air compressor, like to fill up your tires, like without having to go to the gas station. And I'm asking him what our product differentiation is from everybody else because we weren't getting a lot of sales upon launch. He's like, well, we have a stronger, more powerful motor. We have a lifetime warranty. We have an extra long cord. It comes with 2 free valve stems, and I'm like, those are all cool, but no one is typing 2 free valve stems or strong motor or extra long cord when they're going to buy a portable air compressor. So if those are the only things that we're putting into the content or saying about our product, that's not even like why they went looking for one. You know, anyone looking, like the only way they'd be looking for those things is if they had already had one that broke down, or they already had one that had a super short cord, which is like a small percentage of a customer base, right? The real customer base is for a portable air compressor. And then it's up to you in a short amount of time to convince them why it's better than another one, or why that extra long cord is as much value as you think, or whatever that is. It's like so many times we're trying to say, yeah, but I, instead of like, what do they care about? And oftentimes you're finding that solution for what's missing in the content, and why the PPC is not converting, because it's not showing that. If someone's looking for a seltzer water, why are they looking for a seltzer water? What's already assumed? If you're only talking about it having 0 calories and 0 sugar, and they already know that that should be the case because that's why they're looking for seltzer water, then it has to be something else that's getting them to say yes to your product. And it's straightforward facts about something that they've already assumed. You know, it really is going back to how would your mom search for this? Those are the points that matter, you know, and everything else is almost like product ego.
So I know this gets into creative optimization territory, and that's a whole nother 2-hour podcast in and of itself. So I don't want to like belabor this, but I love your idea of like triggers. And I think we've gone over, you know, how to use the ads to sort of maybe trigger that more deep dive into creative.
Tell you if you have a problem, or if it's like, it should be validating whether it's working or not working. And, you know, there's certain things that say, okay, this is kind of working. Okay, this is not working at all. Is it that my PPC team sucks? Is it that my PPC strategies suck? Is it that, like, you know, just no one wants this? I don't believe that's the case. Like, I don't believe that those are questions that have validity a lot of times. I think it's something else. And the PPC should be telling you that. You know, and it really, that's what the PPC is doing in that loop, and how it all works together is like you're using the PPC to try those different things.
Again, we're getting into like creative ideas territory, but maybe just one last parting tip in maybe where you even start. Because right now we say, okay, this is how you identify the problem. And we say, I know I don't resonate with this audience. But if someone was even to go down that rabbit hole, is it looking at the competition and who's ranking on that page? Is it, you know, sort of running survey polls? Is it social listening? Like if someone says, okay, identified, have problem, am not speaking to audience, how do you even start to unwind, you know, because it's consumer behavior, which feels like it's an infinite black hole sometimes.
Well, I think there's a lot of things you can do now. You know, if you have ChatGPT, you can literally throw some great queries at it with your listing and ask it certain questions. I think a lot of times people don't know the right questions to ask it. If they did, they would already have the content right. You know, I think it is things like product opinion and PickFu. Again, there's a million questions you can ask it. So you have to be very specific if you're trying to figure out why someone's clicking on it. You know, in this case, we were talking about, in this scenario, we were getting clicks on our main keyword, meaning the click-through rate is okay. The main image is okay. People are coming in. There's something else that's happening once they're there that they're not buying, right? So I think it can be hard if you're just doing a product opinion, because you're not really just talking to seltzer water customers, to just people in general. And it's like, you really want that seltzer water to understand, you know? So, you know, doing your research, I think, you know, reviews on competitor products is a huge way of figuring that out. It's A/B testing and constantly try testing and doing different things like that. You know, you've got AI, you've got, hey, we've tried this on our own. Let's go try to get somebody else that can help with that. You've got polls that you can do. You can try, like, you know, switching out stuff and then trying different PPC and being like, okay, can I sell this as a mocktail? And just be like, what's happening there? Okay, I'm getting conversions on mocktail. What about this feels like a mocktail versus a seltzer water? Is it my branding? Is it my messaging? I'll leave it with one last story. I really learned this lesson hard with myself when I was really getting started. It doesn't have to do with PPC, but more so this ego around my brand. And like, I was running a t-shirt company called Landlocked in Kansas City, and we did like Kansas City apparel, and it was like blowing up during the World Series and things like that. And I was doing Marknology, the Amazon business, and I was doing Airbnbs, and I was posting everything through like my Instagram, and like, you know, just talking about me as a hustler, doing my thing, these businesses I'm doing. And I kept getting realized, like, or noticed out in the city, and they'd be like, oh, what's up? Like, you know, hey, nice to see you. And I didn't know who they were, you know, and they'd be like, you're that t-shirt guy. And it used to just rub me wrong. Like, I just something about it, like it was one thing to be noticed, okay, cool, and like people are being nice, but like when they noticed me as a t-shirt guy, it really just like
Mhm.
bothered me. One, I don't make the t-shirts, I was designing them and having them made, so I'm not making t-shirts. Not, no offense against that, but then two, I felt like the Amazon thing I was doing was way cooler than
Mhm.
t-shirts or anything else, and I'm like, I want to be known as the guy to go to for Amazon in Kansas City, at least at that time. Like, and if I'm not known for that, then like, what am I doing? You know, I'm not here
Mhm.
t-shirt. I'm here to help your brand with Amazon. And it was really like I had to just like kill the ego and take a step back and be like, look, it's not their fault. There's something I'm doing with my messaging on Instagram
Mhm.
that's confusing people and making
Yeah.
them think of me in one way and not another way. And it was really like what I had to do was split off those brands to having their own, you know, their own social media, Martinology having its own identity, Landlocked having its own identity, and Andrew just being the entrepreneur that talks about his businesses versus like posting my business stuff
Mhm.
account, you know, simple stuff when you're figuring this out. But for
Yeah.
me, it was like I was so upset with everyone else for not getting what I was trying to say, but really it was on me to be like, why are
Mhm.
they getting this? And let me backpedal and try to figure out how I can communicate more clearly. And you know, we're communicating our product through PPC by the keywords that we choose and the way that we show
Mhm.
it. Communicating once there's two things to work on: traffic and conversion, right? And the
Mhm.
is the traffic and conversion is the content, and the relevancy between the traffic and the conversion is what is the sweet spot, you know? So
Mhm.
there isn't like, this is just the difference in being great at advertising and great at marketing and not being, you know. I think that it takes practice figuring out. A lot of times it's somebody that's not so close to the product that can really like give you the best insight. Is like, if you've just been living, breathing your product, you think some of that is so clear and communicated
Mhm.
so, and it simply just, it just isn't to someone from the outside that doesn't understand what that is. And that's usually what I find to be the case, is that like you're using terminology and terms that like only someone that already knows what that product is knows
Mhm.
what things are. But what about the people just trying to discover you for the first time and discover your product for the first time? Are you communicating to them why you're different, why you're special? So that was a long answer, but that's,
Awesome.
there's not just like a black and white way of going about it, really. It's like, this is where the fun side of like selling on Amazon comes in.
Yeah, no, I think just that clues of, recognizing the search pages that you are showing up on, getting clicks and not converting, that in itself is an insight and a feedback loop that, I mean, there is search query performance reports and there's some insights that can be gained, through like more quote organic views of things. But I would agree with you. I feel like advertising is one place that, unless you have a team who's communicating with you sort of the things that aren't working, or like yourself where they can handle both sides of it, I think that's a feedback loop that is oftentimes unfortunately lost.
Agreed. And I think a lot of times the wrong people are getting blamed on those
Mm.
teams. You know, that's why full service can be a little easier to be accountable, because if we're doing the content and the PPC, it's like, you know, okay, guys, it's you guys doing it. When you have
Mhm.
somebody doing the content, someone doing the PPC, and someone doing the SEO, or you're doing the SEO, or you're doing the images, and it's an image of your nephew, you know, things like that, it can get tricky. But if the goal is to win and to figure out, I believe that almost every product on Amazon can sell. It's just a matter of figuring out what that recipe is for that product to make it sell. I don't really believe in like, that product just can't sell. I believe that that team or that person hasn't figured out how to communicate effectively why they should have their product, you know, sold. So
Awesome. And that is a powerful note to leave out on. So if somebody is interested in getting a hold of you, like, oh my gosh, I love what you're saying, I need help in this arena, what is the best way for someone to reach out to you?
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Morgans, marknology.com. We have a contact form there. Otherwise, I talked about my Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Andrew Morgans. I'm on all the channels, so I'd love to hear from anybody. My YouTube's growing. I'm about to launch a newer podcast there, so would love to have anybody
Nice.
like subscribe and follow some of my content there as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll put all of those links in the description, so make sure you go check it out. And I really appreciate you coming on. This has been great.
Thank you, Liz.